Alrighty guys, part 2 of the lessons I feel God has taught me.
Hi, I'm Megan. This is my husband Billy. We met on eHarmony. These are our children, Michael and Lydia. And these are my siblings, Jacob and Zoe. We aren't your typical family, but together we have lots of fun.
So, this one is also really close to my heart. I feel like this is one of those stories that, whoa, I just cut myself off. This is one of those stories that I feel, I really felt God's presence. I was like, wow. I think I was overwhelmed. So, I don't talk about her very much. I feel like our relationship was our relationship, and that was awesome. So, my great-grandmother, who our dog is named after, her name was Elta May, and the dog's name is Ellie Mae. So, it really wasn't that hard. That much of a difference. But anyway, the dog is named after her. And so, with my grandmother, or great-grandmother, I'm sorry. She was my great-grandmother on my mom's side. She was like always like the least judgmental person I ever knew. She would always listen to things. Like, I loved to write stories back from like when I was really young, and she was always the one that was like so supportive and asked me questions, and it would be things that she was totally not into, but she knew that I was into it. Or if my brother was in cars, she would listen to stories about cars all day long. Like, she really was invested in us, even though she didn't really get to see us a lot. When she would come down to be with my grandmother, we were all like, we loved to be around our grandmother, like, just hands down. Towards the end of her life here on earth, she was diagnosed with dementia. I saw the grandmother I knew slowly disappear. At the same time, those memories will last me for forever, because it was just, that was grandma. That was a grandma that, when I remember the last summer I really got to spend with grandma, I had come down to Sammy's house, which is my mom's mom. We all call her Sammy. We never called her grandma. We always called her Sammy. So that's her name. Her name is Sammy. We would always come down to Sammy's house, and or I had come down to Sammy's house to be there with my grandmother. My great aunt was in the hospital, and so it was kind of nice because I would go with grandma and we would go see my aunt. I always just called her my aunt. Like, that was my Aunt Teresa. Like, great aunt, whatever, it didn't matter. She was also somebody that was super invested in our lives, and I could talk to her on the phone for hours. I never felt judged by my aunt. I always felt like my aunt loved me unconditionally and was always there, which I feel like my great-grandmother really set a huge example of God's love and God's acceptance into her children, because for my grandmother to be that way, and then my aunt and my grandma, my great-grandmother to be that way for my aunt and my grandma, it's like, yeah, okay. And even my great-uncle, which I just call my uncle. So, I always felt like, I always knew she loved us. I always knew that we were accepted no matter what. And she always shared God's love with us. Like, so towards the end, when she was diagnosed with dementia, we slowly started seeing things. She wasn't remembering things. But there was one thing that she never forgot, and that was God. And I was always kind of asked myself, like, when they start to forget, when people with Alzheimer's and dementia start to forget, they forget who they are, they forget who someone else is, I always had that fear, like, what if they forget who God is? But that's one thing she never forgot. I remember she would pray. We would hear her praying. She would sing. Sometimes she wouldn't pray anymore. She would just sing. And she would sing. I'm pretty sure were songs that she created, because I had never heard them a day in my life. Or they were songs that she had blended together. And sometimes she would scream them to the top of her lungs. But it taught me that no matter what happens to us here on earth, God doesn't forget us. And He's taking care of His children. And there's no doubt in my mind what my grandmother is. There's no doubt in my mind. And I know she's happier. I know she's healthier. I know she's her. Like, she's good. We all miss her, but she's good. But it was one thing, that lesson was one that will stay with me forever, is we may forget, but He doesn't forget about us. And she never forgot about Him. She may not have remembered my name. She may have called me my mother's name. She may have called somebody else. She may have, like, assumed everybody was her grandchild. Like, everybody could come spend the night. Like, it was so sweet. Conversations we had with her, like, oh, you want to spend the night? She's a neighbor. She got her house next door. But you could come stay with me. You know, like, she was awesome. But even without remembering me, even without remembering the past, she never forgot God. And that was something that I was like, wow. It amazes me. God doesn't forget about us when in our time of need, and when our earthly bodies are giving up on us, and a disease has taken over our mind, and for some have taken over their mind and their body. God hasn't forgotten about us. He's still right there. He's still taking care of us. He's still loving us. He's right there. And I just think, out of everything, she was still praising Him. She was still praying to Him. She was still talking to Him. She was talking to God the way she could. And most of it was in singing. It might be at the top of her lungs. But it was singing. That's how she could connect with God. I mean, this is the grandmother that would go in the bedroom and spend hours praying. And I remember, like, I would wait until she was done, because she would come back into the living room for, like, a snack or whatever. And we would talk and talk and talk and talk. And to see that in the end, she could still remember God. And she still sang to Him. She still talked to Him. It was amazing. It was amazing. Like, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for that moment that I was there to see that. Thank you, God, for the love that you gave her, for teaching me this lesson, for showing me this lesson, for giving me a great grandmother that loved God more than anything in the world, and was such a great example. And it's amazing. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any stories that you would like to share, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. And oh my gosh. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving them down below, please email me. My email is down below. You can instant message me on Instagram and Facebook. And I will see you guys later. Bye.